We are so glad tonight to be able to be here in the historic log cabin. I'm not going to go into detail about this because we have Doc Home here, and also Bob Burke is also a part of the Board of Trustees for the Seminole United Methodist Church across the street. And basically, they're part of the entire restoration of the log cabin. I've driven by this log cabin since I was a little girl. I was born and raised in Seminole. The first time I ever stepped into the log cabin was probably about 6 months ago. I knew it was historic. I knew it was an older building. We don't have many older buildings left in Seminole. So restoration and preservation of this building is essential. So we really want to let you know that this evening, that if you make any donations this evening, they will go directly to the log cabin and to, yes. Okay, so if you do happen to make a donation with the check, you want to make sure that you put in the memo note for Seminole United Methodist that it's saying log cabin restoration. So we can see that there's been much restoration done from the outside, because as I have driven by this, I've seen this transformation, which is really quite phenomenal. For a while, I think everybody was concerned. Okay, there still is more to be done. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. That anything we do donate tonight will go directly to them. So what we're going to do, I would like to introduce Doc Home is going to talk about the history of the log cabin.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. I'm going to start out. My late wife and my mother were Anglophiles with the language. And they told me that any time that I made a presentation, wrote paper to reference it. So don't get my references. St. Pete Times, Seminole Beacon, Tampa Tribune, and the Tampa Bay Times. I'm going to start in 1912. This property was owned by an individual, and at that time, 1912, for those people that maybe know it or not, this was in Hillsborough County. And Hillsborough County built a small school here. In 1914, the Florida State Legislature chartered Pinellas County. So Pinellas County began in 1914. At that time, this property was traded for property on 74th Avenue, where the Seminole Elementary School is. That freed this up, and the Seminole School was built in 1914, and guess what? Still working today. After that, there was some individuals in the Seminole Church were talking about that this area needed a place where the community could meet. At that time, Pinellas County was primarily agricultural, and families needed a place to have Easter egg hunts and all of that. So in 1935, they got together and worked to get it started. And in 1935, there's some probably historians here that know when President Roosevelt was in office, there was a governmental agency called the WPA, and it was Public Works Administration. And they went all over the country and built buildings like this, deeded them back to the community, and that is how this building was built in 1935. The logs that you see here came from Jesse Johnson's farm, which was up where Heritage Park is now. Now, at that time, I'm sure he didn't drag them down with his tractor. They probably dragged them down with mules. But the community basically built this building. and it became the Seminole Civic Club. That's the sign out here on the door. When they were redoing the outside, I said, take that down gently because we want to be able to reproduce that sign. Guess what? It must be made out of Old Heart, Florida Pecky cypress. That's the original sign. They cleaned it off, repainted it, and it looks like it's brand new. I'm finding out all kinds of crazy stuff for this place. Then we had a sizable amount of money that was given to us, specifically designated to be spent to restore this building. And that's how the church got involved. And in doing that, before we wanted to spend a lot of money, we wanted to make sure that we were doing the right thing from a legal standpoint. And Bob Burke and I went to Dennis DeLoach, who happens to be the attorney for both of us, and we told him what our problem was, and he said, well, I can work on that for you, and he did. And because we wanted a clear deed, if we were going to spend a bunch of money, we didn't want somebody else coming back later and saying, we want the money because you weren't supposed to spend it. Well, it came out that Hillsborough County, when Pinellas County was formed, sent all of their records over to the courthouse in Clearwater. Clearwater sent all of those records up to Tallahassee, which, with the Secretary of State, is the department that's supposed to keep these on record so anybody can go to that department and find out what's going on. Guess what? They never got it. He applied to Florida. They said, you don't exist. Now we went back and we know Hillsborough County did due diligence, Pinellas County did due diligence, and Dennis said, well, let me look into this a little further. And I think sometimes God's on your side, maybe. There is a grandfather sunset clause in those kinds of things. If they don't get the records by a certain period of time, nobody can come back and say you did the wrong thing. We were within 6 months of that sunset date. Now, we bit the bullet and said, okay, he said, you can go ahead and start, I don't think. So we actually started 6 months, well, we started to start 6 months prior to that. And we had a bit of contractors come out here after a bunch of search on finding somebody that does this sort of thing and knows what they're doing. And we got started, and then COVID came along. Wham! Nothing happened. Once they opened it up again, we got back in touch with the people that had bid on this, and guess what? They held the original contract we signed pre-COVID was still good. They didn't come in with any price increases or anything. They abided by that contract. We knew ahead of time that that was only probably going to take care of the outside. How many of you here remember the pink wall? Oh, the pink wall that was on the back. That pink wall just drove me crazy. I said, why do we have a pink wall in our log cabin? And the log cabin people said the same thing. They said, we can take it down, but that won't be included. That'll have to be a separate charge. Well, I knew somebody that likes to have projects sometimes, but it was an anonymous donor right off the bat, paid to take that pink wall down. I wanted to be here when it came down. I happened to be in California visiting my children on Thanksgiving. And they said, oh no, we're not going to start till Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Well, I'll be home by then. But we're going to bring over supplies and all of that stuff on Friday. Well, the craftsmen saw that pink wall, and they said, we're not going back to New Smyrna Beach, which is where their headquarters are. We're taking that wall down today. I came home, the pink wall's gone. But I wanted to see it go. But they were amazing. They took, I said, how'd you do it? They took some kind of diamond-tipped saw and they cut 2 inches up, rip it up, 2 inches up, rip it. And they had it down in a day, all the way done and gone. And the guy that owned the company said, well, if that paper wall hadn't been there, the back end of this building would have collapsed over the years. Because they didn't, if you notice in the front, there are two like telephone poles that go from top to bottom. That reinforces that wall, but they didn't put any back here. They have now done that. So then they came in and started, and what you see on the outside is their work. I'm going to kind of just fill you in on highlights. If anybody wants any further questions, I got a bunch of data up here. The person who was doing the inspection to make the bid came over with a hammer and a chisel. I said, well, how do you do this? It was a young woman. She said, well, when you're checking these old heart of pine Florida logs, and if it's solid, it's still good. She started up there and went all the way around this building, and I would say 90-some-odd% of the walls are still original. It's amazing. And because there was a thing, how many, if we go over this many, we got to replace, there will be an additional charge. We didn't get that number. And so that was a big blessing. But in the long run, we spent all of the money, and we did have some other contributions. But right now, if you look at the inside, do you think anything was done to the inside? What? You what? No, nothing was done in here. The people that did the outside said we have a system where we have a log wash, and they said if you can get volunteers to do it, one, you have to wipe the walls down first, no water, because if you wipe down 50-year-old dust, it turns into concrete. So they did that. Then they do a plain water. They dry that. They do plain water again, and the very last thing they paint on this log wash, which brings out the old colors, original logs, most of them. So that's where we are now. Is that there's some stuff in here that needs to be done. The big thing is in the kitchen. The kitchen is basically off limits except for making coffee. We only have one unisex bathroom, which leaves a lot to be desired. However, they used to have 2 bathrooms in here, and the hookups and everything for the second bathroom are still in place. So it's not as complicated to put a second one in as we would think. So that's things that if anybody wants to help us with that are priority. Did anybody have any, what I was going to say, the groups, this was deeded to the church in, I think, 1974, with the provision that the church would be the custodian, but it would still be allowed to be used by the community, and it still is. We've got Alcoholic Anonymous groups that have been meeting here for years. We have 3 of those. We have the Boy Scout Troop 340, which has been meeting in here for 50 years. And that troop has produced more Eagle Scouts than any troop in Pinellas County. And we've had family reunions. Back when the place was a little better than it. Well, it's getting there now. So the church is trying to keep this as a part of the community. And that's why there are those of us that want to bring it back to that point. If anybody wants any further information on the history of dates and stuff, I've got them and I'll hang around for it. I wanted to show you one thing that amazed me about the people that did the log work. This is a log. They went around.
Use your microphone.
We can't hear you.
If it's a bad log, we don't take the whole thing out. They had some kind of special saw that cut on an angle. and they cut the bad stuff out. It's like Dr. Bird would put in a crown. And then they took the measurements. They must have had some kind of laser thing. They made a duplicate of the hole they created, and I dare you to find a slit out there where they put them in. It's amazing. I've been looking. I haven't found one yet. So anyway, are there any questions? Yes.
What's upstairs?
Storage mostly for Boy Scout stuff. Yes. We don't know yet, because we just finished this, and I didn't, because if you get a bid today and you can't act on it, it's not going to be any good. And we want to be able, even if we do things in steps, you know, if somebody wants to get a group and take on a bathroom, or take on painting part of the ceiling, we got all kinds of things. The windows on the outside, the thing that goes down, those weren't part of the deal. They either need to be replaced or painted with the ceiling. Most of the doors need to be, and they would be redone in the same manner that they are there now. But we feel we can't do that until we, and this is going to be an ongoing thing.
What was your priority? What comes next?
My thinking would be the bathrooms. That would be my thing. I think most people say, you know, unisex is okay, but others better. Yes?
Where was the company from that did the work? Where'd they come out of?
New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And that's all they do. They do the whole Southeast. They have sales offices in most of the southern states, but their headquarters, and I did a lot of research online, and there are a lot of people out there that say, yeah, we do this, but we do everything. This is all they do. They don't do anything but log cabins or log homes. And yes.
So you said that they did not do anything inside. What about the log? Okay, so I see the logs, and there's like concrete between each log. Is this original concrete too?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
There is. Now that you asked the question, they make a space-age grout now for log houses. And it can go over the concrete where we need to. And then it looks just like that. And the life on that stuff, according to them, is about 100 years. I don't know what it's made out of. But they have that, and they would do the same varnish, I don't know what to call it. They did the outside would be done in here. And this up here, everywhere you see, that was the roof that was totally bad. That has to be painted from in here and sealed. And there are a few little slits around. But basically, it's the hard stuff has been done. Yes?
I have two more questions. Is that a working fireplace, and why is it called Abe's Place?
All right. Abe's Place is the name for one of the Alcoholic Anonymous groups. And where's Terry? Terry, tell them why you call it Abe's Place.
Because it's a log cabin.
There you go.
1983, the group was formed, and they come in on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday mornings at 9. They also have a group that goes over to War Veterans Memorial Park on Sunday. On Monday and Friday night, we have a group that comes in here from AA, and on Sunday, we have a group that comes from AA. And before COVID, the people from Canada would come down and they would make hot dogs in the working kitchen, so they would feed the people, and they would have Thursday night groups. And so we're pretty excited about the old log cabin getting restored. Right there, where I'm sitting, there's a few hundred years of sobriety sitting in these two rooms, and may I dare say that I think that 50,000 souls have probably been saved walking through that door.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I'm gonna be around if you have, go ahead.
You talked about the cabin, the floor, it looks incredible.
Oh yeah, that's part of the inside.
Yeah.
It's in better shape than you think it. The bad part is around the sides. But this was, you should have seen it before it got clean. This is the old original Swatic pine stuff. And if you really clean it and sand it again, I'll bet you it'll look like this table up here. But no, I'm glad you asked that question. Yes, sir.
You made a comment about the kitchen. Does it need a major refurb, the kitchen, or is it being better?
Well, the way it is with the health department now, you cannot cook you can't cook in a kitchen that's not basically restaurant certified. Now that our kitchen over there is certified, so you could cook over there. You can bring food in here, keep it warm, and serve it. You can keep food warm, you just can't cook it. Anybody else?
How do you handle the termite problem?
Apparently, I think we had place 10, but it was before my time. I'm not sure. Haven't seen any of it, but that doesn't mean termites can't eat pine. That old hard pine nut can eat it. I don't know whether you've ever tried to drive a nail in. It don't work. Got to have a pilot over. Anyway, ready? Thank you. But anybody has any questions afterwards, I'm going to be around for a while.
Well, thank you so much. I wanted to take this opportunity to present from the Campbell family on behalf of the Seminole Historical Society a donation of $2,500 to be for the preservation of the inside of the log cabin. So if we can, and if there's any, maybe the Campbell family can stand up. If there's anybody else from the Campbell family here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Thank you so much. And, we just want to, if you have any other donations, like I said this evening, we'll go to the restoration of the log cabin. We do have some donation bucket up here. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed this program tonight. It was very informative.